Welcome to the Oyster Aero PearlCast. I am Jeff Yerge, founder of Oyster Aero. We are very lucky to have Sharon Green, CEO of Unical, which also consists of Unical Engines, Unical MRO, Unical Aviation. And she and her team have been quite busy reinventing over the last few years, I believe. Sharon,
Just a little bit.
welcome.
Thank you.
And this one is super fun for me because I met you back in 2009 at GCAS. I flew out to Memphis for an interview, and I think you definitely were on the interview team. And I remember that to this day. And then I got to work with you for about a year and a half. So I know you were with GCAS, and then kind of like walk me through like when did you get to Unical? I know you completely rolled up your sleeves, got in there, complete reinvention, moving, hiring teams, all the good stuff. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about you landing at Unical and what you've been up to?
Okay, yeah, sure. Um, First, thanks for having me on. It's a super cool concept, so my daughters are going to be so excited about it, I'm sure. But yeah, so Unical has been the ride of a lifetime, that is for sure. It's been amazing. I mean, as you know, 30 years effectively with this one company that was the Memphis Group, and then GCAS, and then AirCap. Until, like, a famous story, I'm sure, with everyone, you get a call from a recruiter. Obviously knew Unical by reputation, or we'd run up against them, at GCAS
Yeah.
and even at AirCap, run up against them from time to time, rather, bidding on packages. But it was a very well kept secret. And I thought, well, it's reconnaissance, if nothing else. And it was private equity. I had zero experience with private equity, and had a good friend there in Memphis who you probably know, who had worked with them and worked with Platinum, and suggested it was at least worth the discussion. So flew to California and was just amazed. I will say that the previous owner was a true entrepreneur from the word go. I actually knew John Williams, so and that was the mentality of a fellow that got into a very niche industry and just blew it up. I mean, from the parts side, of course, the MRO operations, and a captive 145 shop. At the time, we had PMA. There was defense, but Platinum didn't buy that part. But it was just this huge operation, and of course, I fell in love with that immediately. Not to say that I mean, GCAS and AirCap, there were amazing qualities there, and I learned a lot. But this was really going back to the roots, and it was the opportunity. Obviously, the company had changed hands, so it was the opportunity to kind of try to continue that fellow's vision a little bit, but then rejuvenate at the same time, and
Sure.
transform. So we absolutely dug in. I will say I'm thoroughly impressed by the commercial team. So we sometimes will distinguish between Unical 1.0 and 2.0. So the
Sure.
commercial team was amazing from the standpoint of there was not a lot of, I mean, the background. I mean, we both grew up in that background, heavy data, heavy technology, and that wasn't necessarily the case. So, the people that can sell aircraft parts without a system to support them and feed them all the data, to me, that's, they're the OG group, and or
Right.
I have mad respect for those people, and that's what we had. So that was a nice place to land into. And then it became literally every functional area we attacked. So as I mentioned, we had a captive shop. We had a captive by for the most part, a captive MRO operation, meaning it only did work for the parent. So there was no earnings expectations or anything like that. So you can imagine private equity. We changed those expectations just a little bit, and just started really growing each piece of the business, evaluating each piece to see where could it go, where could it expand. Of course, at the time we were in City of Industry in California, the occupancy rates were crazy, rents were going through the roof, and we'd gotten a study that said it was only going to get worse. And we had over 1 million square feet of parts, if you can imagine that. It was
Sure.
massive. And we started looking around and ultimately decided Arizona was likely a better home for that type of operation. So that was the first really big undertaking, was to move over 1 million square feet of parts across state lines and the shop, and we did that in about 6 months' time. So we joke that we probably put a blip in the transportation market for California there for a minute. It was 30 trucks a day for 6 days a week for 6 months, um, and that was well, that was a complete a complete and
Logistical
utter
fun.
perfect storm of anything you could imagine going wrong went wrong. I was so very thankful for the 1.0 team. And then, of course, we had brought in people from every major player in the aftermarket industry. So everyone had seen different iterations of what we were going through. So we
Sure.
had days we were all out there in the warehouse pulling parts or just trying to find parts. We didn't get power. We didn't get lights into this building until literally the week before we opened. So thankful for Arizona sunlight to and skylights in the warehouse to get that done. But yeah, and I could go on and on about that, but I will say we dug in and we took the opportunity to redo processes. You know how what it's like when you
Oh yeah.
grow in a particular location. Your processes become built for that facility, not that they would translate anywhere. And that's what we had. So we were starting from scratch, just a whiteboard almost. And so we picked up a lot of efficiency just arranging the way parts came in, moved through, and went back out of the building. And then we moved the shop next door. So, that was always kind of Unical's secret sauce, that first to market, because they
Yep.
had the captive shop. Um, so that was again major undertaking. We transitioned to a full ERP system. We had used Quantum and then other pieces for finance and all that. We put everything in Quantum. Um, Sounds easy. It was not, but we got that done. Um, and I guess we even changed the business model a little bit. So Unical 1.0 was almost exclusively airframe, almost exclusively wide body. It's they were known for having anything you ever needed. And so as a result, there wasn't so much strategic harvesting of aircraft. They took everything off and then kept it. And even Boeing, when we were moving, I was at I don't know, some event with a fellow. He's like, "Oh, we may need to come and look." He said, "We always depended on Unical having stuff that we didn't have." And I thought, "Oh my goodness," which that was not a good sign there, but for us, it was not. So we did implement more strategic harvesting and scrapping. I probably broke a few hearts there, but it's like if we've got 50 of this pump, I think we could do with 49. But just that type of approach, more of
Yeah.
a value add.
If only there was a surplus marketplace that could have helped out back then. But
I know, I know, I know. If only, yeah,
uh, but
that's when we absolutely needed to.
but you're not under stock. I mean, you're stocking for service level. You know what your customers are buying, so you're really positioning the right inventory at the right place. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard wonderful things about the level of service of Unical, how it still has been really really strong. And so I guess what last year to get before, when did you pick up or start Unical engines?
That was the beginning of oh, it was the beginning of this year actually. So
Okay,
we so
beginning
we
of
we, we hired
year's almost over. Yep.
Daryl Drake and his whole team the end of last year and officially kicked it off the beginning of this year.
Wow, how's that going?
It's amazing. It We will end the year with that being, I mean, building from scratch, it will be a third of our business this year. And UCal's
Yeah.
not a small business. So that's it's very impressive. And now they're adding serviceable engines. And of course, with eCube, we're going to add engine dismantling as well. So It went from nothing, and we looked at there was always that buy versus build decision to make, but ultimately we got very lucky, got some very good people, and we said let's quit talking about it and just do it. And they did it. I don't want to, that's a royal we, because it was that team in Florida has worked miracles for sure.
That's really cool. And then eCube, right? So we just saw that a couple of weeks ago. How's that going so far?
It's going really well. Of course, I remember when eCube was founded, and they had
Right.
this very different approach to dismantling, that was just very environmentally conscious, or that was the lean in. And of course, in aviation, I know by nature aftermarket is environmentally conscious, but I think we can take it further, and that's exactly what eCube does. And then it positions us really, really well, because now we're the only aftermarket supplier with dismantling and storage and return to service, transition services on multiple continents,
Yep.
which for us is perfect. So it really feeds into being the biggest stock, non-OEM, of course, stockist. It feeds into strategic placement of inventory. It just helps us serve customers so much better, quick and quicker.
That's wonderful. So I was out in Phoenix a month or two ago, came to see you. What a good
Yeah,
facility, and all that. Um, Phoenix aviation is booming. I mean,
it
I
is.
definitely
Yeah.
picked up on that. I mean, it always has been, but the amount of new companies that have moved in there with yourself, KP Aviation just moved down. I'm sure that there's a whole list of companies. So the one thing that I found really cool is, and you touched on it, bringing all these people in from the industry. I mean, you have
Yeah.
Stefan, you have Jen, you have two Davids, you have a new CFO that you have
Yeah.
Conrad. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I'm leaving a lot of team members out, but you're on every continent or a lot of continents, and you have this dispersed team, but you all seem to work together really, really well, and everybody's excited about it.
Yeah, so I tend to be very probably collaborative to a fault, is what Platinum would say, but again, the environment we grew up with,
Yeah,
which is a lot of teamwork. No one has the absolute best answer, but together you can come up with amazing answers. And when you get these businesses together, very reputable businesses in our industry, like Kelstrom and GA and AJ and Safran and of course GCAS and AirCap, and um, I could go on and on there. Uh, it becomes this giant think tank,
yep,
and you get together, and it's not so much, well, it is a little bit, well, we did this and we did this and we did that, but it becomes more of, well, so what's the best way? Because
right.
everybody's way evolved out of their business models and a variety of other circumstances. So then it becomes, okay, what do the customers want? It allows you to pull back and be very, very customer centric. And we've got a long way to go. Don't get me wrong, but it is exciting, and we talk about that all the time. It's like, gosh, because it's private equity. So private equity is not in the game of holding businesses that we will eventually sell. We know that. Um, but it's like, well, so what do we do next? Like, do we form this team and go do this again? Because we've become these adrenaline junkies to this
Sure.
this this pace, which is super exciting.
Oh, that's really cool. All right. So finally, I normally ask people what's next, but I feel like you've just had a couple acquisitions, some startups. You're
Yeah.
probably just getting all that synced up and growing those businesses and all that, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we're always. I mean, and that's. I guess, like I said, I don't have a ton of. Well, I didn't have any private equity experience. That has been the fun part, though, because they constantly are learning about new and different companies that may be on the market. So that's a lot of fun looking at those to say, oh, is this a bolt, or just saying, look, that's a really good company. Doesn't work with us, but y'all should buy that because it's a really good company.
Sure.
Um, or does it add value here? So you never want to get into a position where you're replicating, because it's the idea of gaining new people is that it's a complete value add. So far we've been able to do that. Um, we're always looking at capabilities that we don't have. I mean, we went through that with dismantling, with engine dismantling, and came full circle back to we can build it really quickly. So
Wow. Well, congratulations on all that. I don't know how we squeezed that into 15 minutes, but as a friend, I absolutely adore you, and I really am so happy with what you and your team have done there, and it just bleeds out when I see anybody from Unical. So congratulations, and thanks for coming on as well.
Oh, thank you. And not to have this mutual love fest, but totally impressed with what you've done with Oyster as well. I mean, that's been very fun to watch, and kudos to you for just jumping in and creating a dream. So good for
Thanks,
you.
thanks. Yeah, it's going well. So thank you, Sharon, and we'll
Thank
see you
you.
out there. All
All
right,
right. Thanks.
bye.
Bye-bye.